Hey everyone, this is Coach Tall Guy coming at you with a little video about 7v soccer, 7v7 soccer, and the build out line. So if you're a coach of a U9, U10 team and you're here in Colorado, you're most likely playing 7v7 soccer at U9, U10, and most places throughout the country are playing 7v7 at U9 and U10 as well. So if you're here in Colorado, thanks for tuning in. If you're somewhere across the country and you come across this video, I hope you find it helpful. I know as I deal with a lot of volunteer coaches and new coaches to the game who particularly are coaching this level, they're not used to this build outline concept, the reasoning behind it. They don't necessarily understand the purpose of it and what to do when they're, come game day, like they're looking at it like, why is there some random line on the field? What does that mean? So I want to dive into that for you guys. So when you go on a game day throughout the state of Colorado or the country, you're going to start to see these lines that go across the field. Now in this situation, I just put a little dash line. I know at our soccer fields for our club, it'll be a white dash line that goes across the field. Other places, it might be a solid line. It could be a different color line, maybe blue or something. Some clubs, they'll throw down just poly spots to signify the build out line. But the build out line does have a purpose. It does have a reason. So US Soccer started to see at these young ages that, they weren't able to develop in terms of playing out of the back very well, because what was happening before the build out line is teams would just, stack their team right on the 18-yard line. It basically turned into an episode of Braveheart where, it was just charge and everybody just sort of flew in. And, players here couldn't really receive the ball without being under pressure immediately. And they're so young, right, that they were having a tough time playing out of that. So, and then it put a situation for coaches to basically try to find the biggest, strongest kid and just say, you know what, I'm tired of being under pressure so early and dealing with the press that, I'm just going to teach kids to, for lack of a better word, boot it down the field, which I'll get into boot it in a different episode why we don't want to say that, but they just hit a long ball over the top. And it made sense, right? You want to get out of that pressure. You want to bypass that line. But the problem with that long goal kick is now it becomes a 50-50 ball, because kids at those ages, they're not going to really hit an accurate long ball over distance. They're just trying to get it out of pressure. And when it's in the air, it becomes a 50-50 ball. So US Soccer said, you know what? We're going to put in this build out line, which is awesome. I think there's some really great stuff with the build out line. I like it. There's some other things, you just have to be aware of. But overall, I think it's a good idea. It really encourages our kids to play out of the back. It allows them to make passes that they can actually make over a certain distance, which is great. So in this situation, the 7, 9, and 11 are dealing with a goal kick. So the red team here, this is a big one. They have to drop back behind the build out line whenever there's a goal kick or a keeper save. So keeper save or a goal kick, they have to drop back behind the build out line. So in this situation, the 7, 9, 11, it's a goal kick. All right. So they've dropped back behind the build out line. And you'll notice here, now there's a lot of space for the 4 to make a pass to the 5 and for the 5 to receive it without immediately being under pressure. Okay. So the big takeaways with the build out line is when you are on defense, you have to drop back behind the build out line on a goal kick or a keeper save. Now the question becomes, well, Coach Tall Guy, when can we cross that line? Well, you can cross the line the minute the ball has been touched on a goal kick. So this initial pass here to the 5, all right, you can then immediately pressure the ball if you like, all right? So it's on that first touch. In the situation where maybe the goalie saved it, it would be that roll the minute it comes out of their hands, if they're rolling it or throwing it. If they set the ball on the ground to do a kick, the minute they drop the ball from their hands, you can then cross the line, okay? Now, I talked a little bit about what I really enjoy about that build out line, which is, allowing this initial pass and for the player to receive the ball with some time and space. One of the things that you just need to be aware about the build out line is now the build out line has become like the offside line. It's like midfield, okay? So that can be a little confusing for coaches and for the kids. So I'm going to talk through that real briefly. So let's say the ball is moved down the field, okay? And red has the ball here. And we've decided, you know, we're gonna pressure the ball. We've moved up the field ourselves, which is fantastic. We're staying compact. We're starting to move down the field, okay? And we're in this situation. Now, this is where I need you guys to clue in here pretty closely, okay? So if the build out line is now like the new midfield line, okay, or offside line, so to speak, in this situation, the 7 and 11, even though they might look offside, okay, because we've pushed up in 11v11 9v9 game, they would definitely be offside. They are not offside because they are on their side of the build out line, okay? So if the 9 was to make a pass to the 11 in this situation, the 11 is onside, okay? Because they are on this side, all right, of the build out line. So they're onside. Now, if the 11 was here, okay, they're on the opposite side of the build out line. If the 9 decided to make a pass to the 11, well, now the 11 is offside because they are now on the other side of the build out line, the opposing team side of the build out line. So it's important that you coach your kids to understand that. And it's important that you understand that as well, because I've been to many games where they've played a ball like this, all right, and it looks like they're offside and coaches are hooping and hollering and yelling at the official, they're off, they're off, they're off. Well, I hate to break it to you, they're not off, all right? They were on the correct side of the build out line, so they're onside. So that's the one thing, you know, I'm not super huge fan of the build out line is when you're coaching good soccer. Like in this situation, I'm actually very pleased that everybody moved up the field. They're staying connected on yellow. That's good coaching. That's good soccer. But they just have to be aware that instead of pushing up that high, okay, they're going to want to drop back and make sure that they hold that build out line to a certain extent, okay, so that they're in a good position to defend and they're not just being beat with big long through balls to kids who are kind of, to a certain extent, cherry picking down there a little bit. So coach that up to your kids. So the big takeaways from this 7v7 soccer situations, okay, and the build out line is, remember, when the ball is here on a goal kick, okay, we have to drop back. Red has to drop back behind the build out line. All right. If it's a keeper save, they have to drop back behind the build out line. And then a reminder that now the build out line becomes that new offside line. So treat it as like midfield, okay? I hope you found this video to be helpful. I didn't get into a lot of tactics. I have done some videos on that you can check out on my YouTube channel at Coach Tall Guy about how to play out of the back in 7v7 soccer at U9, U10. It's an important concept that kids need to learn. Now, on that note, can you hit a long ball out of the back? For sure. I'm just saying it's not what we necessarily want to teach, but if you're still having a hard time playing out of the back, you know, feel free to just bypass this press and hit a long ball and, you know, try to win the ball further down the field, okay? But again, that's kind of a different topic. That's very tactical today. I just really wanted you guys as coaches to understand the purpose, why the build out line is there, and what you have to do regarding the build out line when you're on offense and defense. Again, thank you. I know a lot of you have games coming up here real soon, so take some time with your team to go through these concepts, and we'll catch you on another video. This is Coach Tall Guy.